Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial is set correctly to USA Prepares. And we're delighted you're in class with us today. We broadcast 2 hours each day, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. through 11 a.m. Central Time. And if you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. And you know about this listen line? I have been sending emails to Zeno Radio, and they've sent me a response saying that they're working on it. I really wish they'd fix it because we have, I got to tell you, we have a lot of people listening to our broadcast on the telephone listen line. They take us with us as they travel. And maybe I'll give you the email address, and maybe if they get a whole bunch of emails from us, that, well, just go to Zeno Radio, Zeno radio.com, click on contact, and maybe you can send them a message that our telephone listen line is stuck. It's been stuck for about a week, and it sure would be great if they would unstick it. Rich Scheben's with us today. Welcome, Rich Scheben.
Thank you, Mr. Finelli. It's always an honor.
Well, I won't say an honor. It's just delightful. It's great broadcasting with you, Rich Scheben. I wanted to share something with you. So last Friday, I did a broadcast with our engineer, Patrick. And I was talking with Patrick off the air, and we're talking about, you know, do the engineers agree or disagree with some of the things that the hosts say? And he said, yeah, you know, they disagree. And he told me that he doesn't agree with everything that I say. And I was absolutely shocked. I mean, I couldn't believe that he would disagree with the things that I say. Now, for a lot of reasons, I couldn't believe it. One reason is it must be terrible. You know, like, imagine going to work, and you've got a boss, and I'm not saying I'm the boss, but I'm the guy that, I'm the host, okay? So it would be like going to work where you have a boss, and the boss says things, and you have to be quiet. Can't say anything. That would be terrible. I mean, I would probably explode from the pressure of disagreement, you know, if I were in that situation. So that's one thing. Another thing is just having to be in an environment where you hear things that you just disagree with. Well, he said that he was off air, that he was a millennial, and that he disagreed with some of the things that I say about millennials. Like, I don't think they know as much as they need to know about common sense things. And I said, well, why don't you come on the air with me and we'll talk about it. We'll discuss it on the air. You can talk about the things that you disagree with me. So I've never really enjoyed debate. I avoided all the debate classes in school. Well, anyway, I thought, okay, here's going to be a debate. Well, it turned out that we really didn't disagree on anything. Nothing. We were in total agreement. And it's just that maybe I didn't explain some of the things that I said about millennials well enough. So I'm looking forward to having Patrick on again and again, and then we'll talk about things that are of interest. Well, one of the things that I said was the millennials don't know how to do a lot of things that the previous generation and the generation before that knew and know how to do. Like hammer and nail and measure and estimate and those kinds of things. And I blamed it on several groups. One, the government. I blamed it on George Bush. George Bush, No Child Left Behind, his plan, which really means no child has a chance. I'll explain that in a little bit. And I blamed it on the parents. I blamed it on the parents buying things for their children and not having their children save and earn and do things the hard way so that they could learn firsthand, you know, with guidance from the parents. I blamed it on the school system, taking away things like marksmanship class and taking away the trade school classes, like mechanics, auto mechanics, and masonry, and carpentry, and electricity, and plumbing, and those kinds of things. So I blamed it on all of those things, and in the corporations, which have made it impossible to service the automobiles. It's you need to have a computer connection, and you need to have the software, and you can't get the software, and it's all proprietary. So you're really kind of stuck when it comes to servicing some of the current automobiles in tune-up. Pretty much forget doing a tune-up. All right, so I said those things, and some people might have disagreed with me. Well, let me just give you an example. Now, we say things at USA Prepares that are usually way ahead of the curve, years ahead of the curve. Well, I'm going to give you an example. So our son went to an event, a coin show, recently, and he went with two other people. He went with a married couple, and the entrance fee to the coin show was $5 a head. Now, there's three of them. So 3 people at $5 a head. We're going to do the math right here on the air without paper and pencil. 3 people times $5 a head is $15. So he had a $100 bill with him. Maybe he's going to use that to buy some things at this particular coin show. So he wanted to get some change. So he handed the gal at the front table $100 and said, "No, it's for the 3 of us." So she had a great deal of difficulty with this calculation. 3 people times $5 is $15, and then you start with 100 and you subtract 15 and you get $85 change. She kind of fumbled around, and she was a gal in about her 40s, and she apologized, and she said math is not her strong suit. She's an English teacher. She's an English teacher. So she got out her calculator, which is her phone, and she did the calculation, and she came back with the answer of $85 change. And she said, "Check it, because I'm not sure it's right." Now, these are the people who are teaching the millennials. Here's just one example. Now, if you go to any restaurant where they have a cash register and you're paying on the way out, and you give them change, if the cash register doesn't say the amount tendered, here's the amount for the check, and here's the change, if it's a cash transaction, typically the young person behind the cash register can't make change without the cash register telling them what to do. So I'm going to tell you how to do it. There's what's called the Austrian method of addition, which is subtraction. So what you do is you start with the $15. You say, okay, 3 times $5 is $15. Then you go to the cash register and you say, okay, I'm going to take out another $5 bill. So 15 and 5 makes 20. And then 20 more, then 20 more, and then 20 more, and then 20 more makes 100. That's how you do it. It's as simple as that. So the Austrian method is the way that children should be taught how to make change from behind the cash register, because obviously they don't know how to do it. And when Ron Paul was running for president, I was going to buy 2 Ron Paul hats, 2 of them, and they were $7 a piece. It was like at a gun show type thing, and Mrs. Finelli was with us. So 7 and 7 is $14, and I pulled out a $20 bill to pay for them, and the person behind the table didn't know what to do.
Unbelievable.
Could not make change. Now, both of these instances were in Springfield, Missouri. Okay? So it's not like we were in a third world country. Well, maybe we are in a third world country. But, Rich, I am absolutely serious about what I just said.
Well, Vince, I'll be honest with you. This is one of the reasons why I say 90% of the college degrees are worthless. The highest paid faculty member around the nation, especially for the big schools, is the football coach. It's all about social indoctrination. For example, Clemson University, expecting certain people to be on time is racist. University of California, they have chill zones and mats and beanbag chairs for naps. University of Michigan, Trump derangement syndrome enlists services of a psychologist in rooms full of Play-Doh and bubbles. I'm not making this up. University of Arkansas, eliminating C grades and starting grades at a B level. Several universities around the country saying the American flag is a symbol of hate. College students are intimidated by masculine wood paneling. Universities hiring social justice warriors to tattle tale on other students' speech. This is why the mainstream media carries the narrative through satire and banter and be derogatory against conservative thinkers. They want basically followers. Their MO is to distract, dumb down, and divide the American people by groups. So football, for example, and that's why the highest paid faculty member of most colleges is the head football coach, is a great distraction. So this is what we have in America today, people who have lost the ability to think. And this is why I always mention we have to relearn those 19th century skills and dovetail them with 21st century technology. The average American spends 7 to 8 hours per day, not per week, per day, on their television and or smartphone. And we've lost that balance in life between nature and technology. We need to get that back, Vince.
There's no question about it. So let's fast forward from George Bush. Well, let's talk about that for a second. So George Bush wants no child left behind. And so in Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, when I was there, they came up with standardized tests. So the children in school would have to take a test in order to progress to the next grade. Seems logical, right? Well, I'll tell you what happened, what really happened when we come back. And class, you're going to find out that if you love your child, you're going to want to take him out of that public training camp. No kidding. We'll be right back. Rich Scheben's with us, Off-Grid Montana, offgridmontana.com. So, Rich, in the Commonwealth of Virginia, when I was there back in the late 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s, the teachers were told about this new standardized testing that would be going on. So instead of the teacher determining what the students should learn and talking with the administration and the principal and the school board about what should be going on in those particular classrooms that the teachers headed, that was all determined by standardized learning. So the teachers would be administering tests to their students, and if the students of that particular teacher did not pass the test, well, then that teacher would be fired. The teacher would lose their job. So then when you think about this, you think, well, okay, that makes sense. You know, certain things that the students have to learn, we can't leave it up to the teachers because they might teach whatever they feel is important, and we can't, we've got to have some kind of standardization. So we have statewide standardization of what the students are going to be learning in each grade. All right. Then the teachers are held responsible for what the students learn. And the proof of that is through the results of the tests, the standardized tests based on the standardized learning. Sounds reasonable. Okay. Well, what happened was that the teachers were so in fear of losing their jobs that they were able to get copies of the test. And what they did was they said, boys and girls, if you're asked this question, here's the answer. Here's the next answer. Here's the next answer. So what the teachers were doing was teaching the students the answers to the questions on the test. That's called teaching to the test. So actually we are teaching, or we are programming the students to regurgitate the answers. Not how you derive the answer, not why that's the correct answer or the best answer, but here's the answer when you're asked this question, and all you do is regurgitate it. And that's what was happening. So now you combine that with why or what the students know, and you find out they don't know too much. They don't know how to estimate. And I keep using that word estimate because it's so darn important in everything that we do. I mean, I can look at my gas gauge or my diesel fuel gauge on the tractor or on a vehicle, a truck or a car that I happen to be in, and I know how many miles per gallon I get on average, and I know how far I can go, and I can decide where I'm going to buy the next lot of fuel based on estimating how far I can go. I mean, it's simple. However, if we use calculators over and over and over again, and that becomes our crutch, we forget how to estimate. Heck, we forget how to spell. Heck, we forget how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. How many times do you find people with very simple arithmetic problems, and they have to pull out their phone to get the answer because they don't know, and they can't figure it out, and it's too hard? It's because we have lost the ability to estimate. We've lost the ability to perform simple mathematics in our head. Why? Because we have that thing in our pockets that'll tell us the answer. All we have to do is type it in. So I think that the cell phone, which is a pretty darn handy device, it's actually a pocket communicator and a computer, that thing is costing us our ability to estimate and learn and understand and do things. And I'm not kidding. And I don't have one. So let's fast forward to Baltimore, Maryland. Okay? This all ties together. Baltimore, Maryland. And this article is zerohedge.com. Okay, so in recent times we've covered a grade rigging scandal in Baltimore, Maryland. That's worth paying attention to. These are the words of the article. Okay. Baltimore city school systems could be on the verge of gaining national attention as the prime example of America's broken education system. What's happened is the teachers are rigging the grades to pass the students on from level to level to level. And how bad is it? Well, there are 6 schools in Baltimore, Maryland, where the students, not one student that's proficient in math. How's that possible? So we're talking about Baltimore, Maryland, and here's one of the quotes from the article that I'm reading on Zero Hedge. How can a high school with 0 students proficient in math have one of the highest graduation rates? How's that possible? It's not possible. Okay. Another part says we've graduated kids. They use the word kids. I would use the word students or children. They use the word kids. I don't know why we use the word kid. Those are baby goats. Kids are baby goats. We have graduated kids who can't read the diploma. Okay? That's Fox, Baltimore. Okay? Now, let me read the definition of racket or racketeering. A racket, and this is Wikipedia, a racket is a planned or organized criminal act, usually in which the criminal act is a form of business or a way to regularly or briefly, but repeatedly, earn illegal or extorted money. A racket is often a repeated, continuous criminal operation. Conducting a racket is racketeering. Now, someone will have to explain to me how this grade rigging system, for which the school district, the county in which the school is in, that district, gets money from the federal government and from the state for the education of children. Now, if they are grade rigging and passing students along whom do not deserve to be passed along because they don't know the material that they're being taught, if we are passing them along and we are altering their grades from what they should be, that is a criminal offense, in my opinion. That is racketeering. That is fraud on a grand scale. Now, what do we do with the superintendent of that district? Well, we arrest him for racketeering. What do we do with the principals? We arrest them. For what? Racketeering and fraud. What do we do with the teachers? We arrest them. For what? Racketeering and fraud. That's our money that's being wasted, squandered, pilfered, stolen, fraudulently obtained. Our money. It's an outrage. Now, until we start arresting these people, prosecuting them, and putting them in prison for the crimes that they've committed, this will continue. It will absolutely continue. And to this day, if you mention in Jefferson City, at the center of government, in Missouri, if you mention Rory Ellinger, he was a former state representative, if you mention his name, the current representatives say, oh, that poor guy. He was bludgeoned. He was bludgeoned. Why was he bludgeoned? Because he was the guy that sponsored the bill to confiscate AK-47s, AR-15s, magazines of greater than 10 rounds, certain rifles, shotguns with certain kinds of grips that he didn't like. And if you didn't destroy yours, if you didn't get it out of the state of Missouri, or if you didn't turn it over to the government without compensation, 90 days after this bill became law, you would be a criminal subject to imprisonment. Now, are these legal? Absolutely. They're legal. All of these guns, grips, they're all legal. But Rory Ellinger decided that they shouldn't be. So he was going to take something that you could have bought that was legal and turn it into something that was illegal and would make you a criminal for being in possession of something that was perfectly legal in the first place. Now think of that as a refrigerator. You buy a refrigerator and it's perfectly legal. Then 90 days later they say, that thing causes ozone depletion. You got to get rid of it. As a matter of fact, turn it into your government where it will be destroyed safely. Or get it out of town, out of the state. Otherwise, you go to jail for 7 years. Or prison. That's the kind of thing we're talking about. These are crimes. Well, Rory Ellinger was bludgeoned because a couple broadcasters exposed what he wanted to do. And you're listening to one of them right now. So they know who I am in Jefferson City, Missouri. And so if you see this kind of racketeering, I think you need to speak up. But who are you going to speak up to? The police? The courts? We don't have a justice system. You're going to have to do it yourselves. You're going to have to run for school board office. You're going to have to take control of your schools. You're going to have to fire the principals. You're going to have to fire the teachers. You're going to have to fire the superintendents. And if we do that, if enough of us do that, we can make a difference. Rich Scheben, any comments?
Well, yeah. Well, Vince, this is why I do these radio shows and talks and stuff and wrote the book, is what I'm trying to do is give people the guts to read, research, and speak up. Because waking up the masses is the only way things are going to change. Some of the things, let me comment on some of the things that you just mentioned regarding the sad happenings in Baltimore. And Baltimore is not an anomaly. This is happening in many schools around the country. When students can't, graduating students cannot read their own diplomas, it basically, purposely, the plan of action is to lower the bars of standards and expectations in America, to cultivate followers and create and eliminate thinkers. And when you do that, you eliminate the foresight thinking, too, like some of the examples you were mentioning about math earlier. I think we talked about this briefly last week, or at least I did in some show, where the articles are coming out that knowing math, and I'm paraphrasing here, is racist. Again,
I read the same article.
Bars of standards and expectations. So just like when you were mentioning about cell phones and computers to do your calculating in math, it's all connected. The cell phones and Google and all these social media and search engines and the FANG companies that are trying to control everything because they have an addiction to power, money, and control. And they don't care about monopoly laws or antitrust laws. Basically, they're coming out with changing history and even changing definitions of words. So what I would like to do is get people to realize that we need to decentralize, not just from the school system, but in every way, shape, and form. Move out of the country, move out of the city, move to the country, learn certain skill sets, learn to control your own destiny a little more. What we need to do in the teaching realm, especially from the taxpayer's perspective, is stop teaching theory and start teaching needed practical experience. In other words, when we hire kids out of college to become teachers without 15-plus years of practical experience in the private sector, real world, successful private sector experience, we have teachers who will bow to Common Core, who will bow to teaching 6-year-olds gender identity, who will bow to everything that the powers that be want to do. Now, I've used the term decentralized. all this is coming from the top down. We need to have everything come from the bottom up. Basically what you're talking about is future control by, like, for example, the United Nations. Now, just think about who owns or runs the UN, the central banks, the IMF, the World Bank, the CFR, the big banks in America. Just give us some more specific names. The Rothschild Bank of London, Berlin Federal Reserve, the Bank of Paris, the Bank of Italy, the Bank of Hamburg, Amsterdam, Chase Manhattan, Rockefeller Bank of New York, Goldman Sachs. This is a short list. What the powers that be are doing is lowering the bars of standards and expectations by creating, through group identity politics, a.k.a. victim group status, which is their home run pitch, a different set of rules, laws, and accountability based on what group you're in. Professional wordsmithing, Hegelian dialectic, media propaganda, subliminal messaging. You can't even watch a movie for 5 minutes without getting some type of subliminal message from the globalist agenda, because they want to control the armies, lands, food, medicine, regulations, ports, transportation. Basically, they're going to end up owning the people and running the people. And we are treading on thin ice. We're right there. And this is why we have to have these conversations. This is why we have to talk about raising the bars of standards and expectations. Because when you insult the work ethic, the ability, and the intelligence of all these people and all these groups, you're degrading and disrespecting them. There's no chance of synergy. And you don't empower a nation or a group by lowering the bars of standards and expectations. That's what these schools are doing. This is all part of the game. This is planned in every way, shape, and form. And we need to have these conversations and use economy 101 analogies. We need to talk about financial betterment for the people. We need to talk about why savings and is so important, and getting out of debt is so important to control one's own destiny. Because all this is turning everything upside down. It's meant to make you as an individual submissive. It's meant to protect, to basically break your will. And this is all protected. This whole ideology and strategy is protected by the elites. So as you listen to all these politically correct buzzwords like extremist, controversial, racist, bigot, sexist, misogynist, homophobe, conspiracy theorist, intolerant, violent hater, et cetera, you're being, as an individual, you're being demonized and discredited and delegitimized through every medium possible to say it like it is. So when you destroy America by lowering the bars of standards and expectations, you're rewarding mediocrity. And ingenuity, productivity, innovation, everything that made us great is on the chopping block. And it starts with the left-right paradigm, folks. Ideology is a very small part of it. The biggest part is the aristocracy versus the serfs and their control of the narrative, the memes, themes, talking points, and microphone. It's time to read, research, and stand up for humanity, for the bottom 93%. Vince?
Yeah, Rich Scheben's with us. Off-grid, Montana. I've got some comments when we come back. Okay, class, I need your help. Yeah, so I called the telephone listen lines during the break of this broadcast, and they're still repeating for over a week now the same rerun of USA Prepares. Now, I think it's great that they're rerunning it, but it sure would be nice to have the current material. So here's the email address, support@zenoradio.com. Now, if you'd consider sending them an email and asking them to fix the telephone listen line at USA Prepares, I'd appreciate it. Maybe if enough of us get together, we can get it fixed. So that's support, SUPPORT, at Zeno Radio, ZENO Radio, RADIO.com. And in the subject line, put USA Prepares stuck on rerun. Can you please fix it? And they'd like to know the telephone numbers of the telephone listen lines that are stuck. And that is, several of them. 605-477-3249. 605-477-3249. And there's another one, 605-562-4080. 888-562-4080. So if you wouldn't mind sending that email, I've done it several times as well. Maybe if enough of us do it, we can fix it. Rich Scheben's with us. Rich, so, one of the things that I mentioned is that you've got to run for these offices to fire the principals, the teachers, and the superintendents. And so I called the Missouri School Board Association. And I said, so what are the requirements to run for school board office? Because I was going to do it. And I wanted to fire the superintendent. I did. For mismanagement of the school. And so I made my intentions knowing that I was going to do it. And so I called the Missouri School Board Association. They said, okay, well, you've got to be at least 24 years old. Okay, well, I can do that. And you have to be a resident at least 1 year and a taxpayer of the district. So you have to be a Missouri resident of at least a year in the county that you want to run for school board of. Okay, well, I can do that. So I met all the qualifications. You have to be a taxpayer for a year at least, a resident for a year at least of the county or the district, and you have to be over 24 years old. So the next question I asked the guy in this, at the school board office was, so it's okay that I'm a felon? And he said, yeah, I guess that's okay. I said, well, I'm not a felon, but I was just wondering if it'd be okay. And he said, yeah, there's nothing that says that a felon can't run. So I ran, put an ad in the paper, and the ad said, fire the entire school board district, one director at a time, consider voting for Vincent Finelli, the only candidate who won't make your child urinate in a cup. Put that in the paper, and I lost. I mean, I always lose, but I ran. So who beat me? Well, a guy who allegedly was arrested and convicted of a felony. So I ran allegedly against a convicted felon, and he beat me by a wide, huge margin. So the school district is just as dumb as it was before. No one is fixing it, and it's, well, he's from here. We got to vote for somebody from here. He's one of us. A convicted felon, allegedly. So I keep trying. I'm a slow learner. Let me tell you another story. So when I was in Virginia, I had some students in my class. I started out with about 60 students. I ended up with about 15. And one of my students got a scholarship. He was in the top 11% of his graduating class. Got a scholarship to college, a free ride. The next semester, I saw him around town. He was wearing one of those uniforms for an office supply company in town. I said, so what are you doing? He said, I'm working for the office supply company. So I thought you were in school. I said, yeah, I flunked out. I said, what happened? He said, well, I wasn't prepared. He was in the top 11%, and he wasn't prepared for college. And he flunked out for a semester. I guess we passed him along. Gave him grades that he didn't deserve, I'm guessing. Everyone all set, cocked, locked, hour number 2 of USA Prepares. And Rich Scheben, during the previous hour, we were talking about millennials and what's wrong with the educational system. And, I'm not making this stuff up. Literally, this young man I was talking about the previous hour was in the top 11% of his graduating class. He was one of my students. And he had a free ride to college. And he flunked out. And he told me he wasn't prepared. We didn't teach him the things that he needed to know. Now, my class was an elective. It was, computer science class. But I taught him a lot of things he did need to know. But I couldn't make up for 4 years of education in one. I just couldn't do it all by myself or with 2 other teachers. I just couldn't do it. And so I've tried. I've run for the school board office, and I was beaten. I've run for the board of directors, and I've been beaten twice. I just don't give up. I ran for the water board in our little town. I got beaten there. Where I live, it's a matter of I'm a foreigner, and obviously I can't be trusted. And they make up stories about me like I'm Well, they believe I'm a killer. Literally. They believe I'm a mobster. They believe I'm a hitman. And so they don't want a hitman to be in the water board, or they don't want a hitman to be on the school board. They make this stuff up. But yet I've been to school board meetings where they're involved in fraud. Literally. Bilking the taxpayer. Thousands of dollars at a time. They're passing along students. Schools all over the country are passing along students that don't deserve to be passed. They need to be held back. Well, why do they do that? Well, it's about money. And Rich Scheben's talked about this so often. It's all about money. And why? Well, because the school districts get, about between $11,000 and $20,000 per student per year to house them. I'm not saying educate them. I'm saying house them for half a day. Pick them up on the bus, house them for half a day, feed them a free lunch in many cases, and then ship them back home on the bus. They get paid for this. So they're interested in special needs students because they get extra money for them. They get extra money if you are on a free or reduced lunch program. They wanted me to sign our son up for a free or reduced lunch at school because he wanted to see what the public training camp was like. They wanted us to sign up for it. I absolutely refused. They said, well, it's better for the school. It helps the school. It helps the school if your son gets a free lunch. Now think about that. It helps the school if I don't pay for his lunch or I don't send a lunch with him. It helps the school. This is a racket. This is literal racketeering. It's dishonest. They wanted me to make stuff up to qualify or to sign up for things that we should not get. And I don't think it stops with the schools. I think it's in the soil and water conservation program. I think it's in welfare. I think it's in EBT. I think it's everywhere you look. And seriously, the things that are wrong with our young children, that they don't know how to do things, really? We have videos on the internet to teach you how to read a tape measure? Really? Parents, think about that. How could you let your children become a late teenager without having that teenager know how to read a tape measure? How's that possible? Well, if it wasn't done in school, it's your fault. It's your fault for not teaching your child that. What's the matter with parents? What are they thinking? Their child's going to get along in life without knowing how to read a 25-foot tape measure? Really? How's that possible? So ultimately they get out of the basement, they move on to their very first apartment, and they look around and they go, wow, this is a nice room. I wonder how big it is. I don't know how to figure out, how big is this room? I don't know. You think that couch we picked up on the curb will fit in here? I don't know. How do we figure that out? I don't know. Really? It's because we don't know how to measure and we don't know how to estimate. And parents, that's our fault. Now, my children do know how to do that because I made sure that they knew how to do that. And change tires and oil and air filters and tune up their cars. And home economics. And carpentry and electricity. Was it easy? No. Did it take work? Yes. Rich, you've met our children.
Mm-hmm. I have. No, they are definitely well-rounded. There's no doubt about it. And they have good listening skills, too. And I really believe in the mentor-protege relationship that we're losing that big time. And just to address what you just said about our school system, what I would like to see, and the powers that be do not want this to happen because they want to control the narrative, the meme, the theme. But today's kids don't know deflation, inflation, stagflation. They don't know about the coming automation, robotics, and artificial intelligence and technocracy that's going to take millions of jobs away from them. They don't know about economic growth, wages, inflation, bonds, stocks. They don't know about math. A lot of students don't even know how to balance their own checkbook. So what I would like to see happen in America is parents combining forces and combining homeschools, getting your kids out of the public government school regime, which is meant to socially indoctrinate and distract, dumb down, and divide the American people by groups. There's so many credible websites out there that Vince talks about, I've talked about on many a radio show, that talks about a lot of these things. And bring in guest speakers, bring in guest instructors for a day, and teach your kids how to do certain things. But bring in people who aren't in the public sector. Bring in people who are cultivated thinkers and not cultivated followers. Bring in people who have 15 years of successful private industry experience. And people don't even know what the definition of fascism is. And I talk, as you know, Vince, I talk about that quite rarely when it's appropriate. Now, people need to realize that we are in a fascist system. We only have 4 to 6% of people in America who make their primary income from being self-employed. It's the big corporate oligarchies who have created an alliance with big government protected by the mainstream media, by 5 or 6 companies, and the court systems. So, you know, we always talk about how bad the cops are, and there are some bad cops, but our lawyers, our judges, and our bankers are 10,000 times worse for the quality of life and opportunity for the bottom 93% than our police officers. Trust me on this one. So people have to really learn about the propaganda behind the scenes. They have to realize that the mainstream media, their job is to manufacture perception, pity, guilt, and ideology. And it's not just television and radio that's doing this. They're owned by, it's all top down. The narratives, the memes, the talking points, this is top down. You heard the saying, follow the money. This comes from the top, as well as the narratives and memes. I mean, 8 people in the world, folks, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, have a higher net worth than half of the globe combined. So the mainstream media, these 5 companies, 6 companies that own TV and radio, they own newspapers, they own the magazines, they own the production companies and the publishing companies. I've had at least 40 different offers, including from very big companies, to do reality shows and documentaries on my lifestyle. And I said, I'm not interested unless I have final editing rights. And they still keep trying because they want to control the narrative. They want to basically make you, as a listener, more submissive and break your will. They don't want to empower you with information. They want to demonize, discredit, and delegitimize through all the mediums and the fake news. Basically, fake news is a synonym for bought and paid for news, and make it you realize that you cannot control your own destiny. That's what they want to do. So this is why living off grid and thinking outside the box and doing things differently. I mean, this cookie-cutter follower, politically correct subdivision mentality that we live in America, only probably at the very most, 1/2 of 1% lives off grid. I'm going to say probably close to 1/10 of 1% lives this way. But when you live this way, you learn certain skill sets, and you're training yourself, and you're learning to think differently, again, outside the box. And that's what we need to do. Parents, you need to get your kids out of school, out of the public government schools, and you need to create an alliance with like-minded people and give a balance of education to your kids. Everything from thinking to communication and foresight. All the things we talk about on this show at usaprepares.com. Vince?
Well, I was thinking about this. So many parents might be listening to what you've said, Rich, and they might be thinking to themselves, I can't do it. I can't teach my child all these things, all these skills. I don't know them. Well, there are companies that will provide you in a box everything you need to teach that grade. So if your child's in 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7, 8, 9, whatever it is, you can buy all the materials, including the pencils and paper and ruler, everything that's necessary for that particular grade in a box. You can buy it. And then there's something called the teaching company. And they've got absolutely outstanding videos from some of the best teachers in the United States of America. And what they do is, if you think you've got a great teacher, you can nominate that teacher, and that teacher will make a presentation to the teaching company. And if the teacher passes that interview, that evaluation, then that teacher will be afforded the opportunity to make a video. And we have a bunch of videos on everything you can think of for our children. reading, writing, arithmetic, history, science, everything you can think of. And they're truly outstanding. And you can do that. Plus, Rich Scheben and I are talking about the teaching company. And so I went to the website, and they've got 45 courses for under $40. I'm going to just read some of these titles to you. Utopia and Terror in the 20th Century. Comparative Religion. St. Augustine's Confessions. The Physics of History. Mysteries of the Microscopic World. How Great Historians Interpret the Past. Popes and the Papacy. A History. Great Battles of the Ancient World. Joy of Thinking, the Beauty and Power of Classical, Mathematical, and I don't have the rest of that title. Mathematics from the Visual World. Great Ideas of Classical Physics. Now, these are the ones that are under $40. Some of them are $12.95 and those prices. So, great way to learn if you're interested in learning. So, yes, you can do it. You can. And, just to talk about what a bright company this is. So, they've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of courses, video courses, audio courses. And if you call them up and you say, I'm thinking about this this course that you've got, Voltaire and the Triumph, and Voltaire and the Triumph of Enlightenment. Can you tell me about that course? They can probably say, yeah, I've seen it, and here's what it's about. And it's really good because A, B, C, D, and E. That's what it's like when you call these guys. So, when I'd call the electric company and I'd pay my bill on the phone, I'd say, hi, this is Vin Finelli. I'm your favorite customer. And they wouldn't really know what to say. So I call I'd call our credit card companies and phone companies. I always say the same thing. Hey, this is Vin Finelli. I'm your favorite customer. And they would stammer and stutter and wouldn't know what to say. I called the teaching company and I said, hi, this is Vin Finelli. I'm your favorite customer. And the gal on the phone said, yeah, you are. As a matter of fact, your picture is in the break room. Is that a great response or what? So that's how bright these guys are. So that is the teaching company. Rich, I'm really frustrated with what we're doing in terms of education for our young people. And I really think that, as you said, we need to get involved. We need to take our school systems back. We need to show up unannounced and say, hi, I'm Vin Finelli. My daughter is in school, and I'm here for a tour. How about that? Not may I have a tour. I'm here for a tour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Unannounced.
Well, you know
Why?
what?
Who's paying for it? You are.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's obvious they're not paying for the betterment of America or the students or the public. And what would be a good idea, and I've mentioned this on the air many times, a public forum for the people. We need ideas and solutions conferences/expos in every county in America. Now we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,100 counties in America. Can you imagine if we did this, how people would learn? Maybe dovetail with a media outfit like USA Prepares and this particular school that you just mentioned. We've got to eliminate official authorities from showing up and banning things. And let's just give ideas and solutions. Our Bill of Rights, our Constitution, talks about free speech, talks about peaceful assembly. We can do all this stuff. We can do all this stuff legally. And maybe this could be a great push to get people, because there is an awakening. There's a huge awakening going on. There's a huge awakening for prosperity and controlling one's own destiny and being independent. I mean, look what's happening in Spain and Catalonia, and Italy's talking about it, and the AfD party in Germany, and Brexit in Britain, and the newly acquired seats of the Czech Republic and Austria. People are fed up and tired of the banks controlling the system and basically killing so many people in so many wars. And a lot of these big governments, whether it be tyranny or socialism or communism or totalitarianism or dictatorships, all of these words are top-down centralized control with no accountability from the top down. And the people are tired of it, and the people want to change things for the betterment of themselves, the people, and so they can control their own destiny, Vince.
Yep. We'll come back. Let's talk about Sears. What's happened in Sears in Canada. Class, you won't believe it. I'm not kidding. Rich Stevens was. Rich, did you see the article about Sears in Canada liquidating 150 of its remaining stores? Did you see that?
Yeah, actually, it's been in the news about Sears going down for a few months now, and I did see the pictures. It looked like kind of war in the pictures, the war zone there, and yeah, it's brick and mortar businesses are going down. The United States and Western countries are going broke, and that's why the 2-year and the 10-year and the 10-year and the 30-year bond years are flattening, because credit is drying up. Demographics, debt, credit, pensions, valuations, the future headwinds for the rate of growth looks very bleak in the future. And the amount of debt that we have between car loans, school loans, credit card loans, etc., is through the roof. It's over $1 trillion each on every one of those. And this is one of the reasons why we need to start thinking outside the box and being a little more self-sufficient and growing our own food and communicating with like-minded people and getting our kids out of the so-called official authority schools that are planning to socially indoctrinate and dumb down the kids. And we got to stop listening to the powers that be when they say double standards, hypocrisy, that's the way it is, that'll never change. That's basically being the poster boy or poster girl for ignorance, apathy, and indifference. And when you're drunk on the Kool-Aid of political correctness, you're not going to change anything. So this is why we need practice what you preach laws, which I talk about on almost every show, and make sure that we stand for principle, which is the same rules, laws, and accountability for everybody, truth, and if they do it, you do it. We got to eliminate group identity politics, because the demographics, the corrupt monetary policies from the central banks and Keynesian economics is making it almost impossible for the people to, again, control their own destiny. 78% of people live paycheck to paycheck in America. That's not prosperity. That's not equality. That's not all these politically correct buzzwords like equality and prosperity and inclusiveness and fairness and accountability, and they mean nothing. These are words that have been hijacked by definition to use as a tool to divide the American people. And we got to start thinking about synergy in lieu of division, because we are everything. I don't know if we're going to have an official crash, but I do know that opportunities and wealth and prosperity are going to continue to decrease along with savings. And without savings and people getting out of debt, it's just going to be more and more despair. And that's why the number one cause of death in America for people 50 and under is drug overdose. And that's about as sad as you can get. That's a nation in despair. Vince?
Yes, it is. And about this Sears story, now this is zerohedge.com. And the article is titled "Caught on Video. This is all that's left of Sears Canada." Now, class, I grew up with Sears. If you wanted an oil burner or a gas burner or a dishwasher or a refrigerator or a pair of blue jeans or a shirt or a tie or tools or paint for the inside or outside of your house or paintbrushes or a lawnmower or a riding lawnmower or a chainsaw, they had it all. If you wanted a go-kart, they had it all. Now, this is in the 1970s. I used to work there. I was an auto mechanic after high school hours. You know, the high school day would be over, and I would be an auto mechanic in the evenings. You could get your shocks or batteries or brakes, exhaust systems or tune-up. We did all those things. Well, it was a good, better, best system. So the employees at Sears would figure out the good quality, the better quality, and the best quality. So if you had money to burn and you wanted the best, well, they made that decision easy for you. They already did the analysis, and they would show you why it's the best, or why it's just the basic quality, which they called good. Well, according to this article on Zero Hedge, Sears Canada announced plans to liquidate its remaining 150 stores instead of restructuring them. Now, over the last 3 or 4 years, maybe even 5 years, I talked about Sears and are they viable? Are they viable as a business? Their lifetime guarantee, their satisfaction guaranteed or money back. They've removed that from the entrance to each of their stores. They don't say that anymore because they don't mean it anymore. They sold the Sears Tower years and years ago. They've sold off Craftsman. You can get Craftsman lots of places, not just Sears. That was their brand. They made that. Sears made that company great, Craftsman. Well, so they have decided to liquidate. Now, that means that 12,000 jobs are going to be lost in the next couple of weeks. Okay, there are 18,000 retirees and beneficiaries who have monthly pensions. Now, where'd that money come from? Well, probably came from Sears partially and the employees partially. Okay, they thought that money was going to be there for as long as they lived, right? We don't know what's going to happen to that. They may get none of it. They may get some of it. We don't know. But here's what happened. They decided to liquidate, and so during this liquidation sale, customers came in to buy things. And Rich said it looks like a war zone. That is not an underestimation. Class, it looks like a bunch of people rushed in like one of those sales before Christmas. Those Black Friday sales where people are ready to bash down the doors to get in to buy televisions. Well, it looks like they went through the shoe department and they took all the shoes out of all the boxes and threw the boxes on the floor. I'm talking thousands of boxes. Am I exaggerating? No, I'm not. They trashed the entire store. They left it in shambles. The only thing that can be done to clean up the store at this point is to take a snow shovel, and 100-gallon rolling trash cans and shovel the boxes with a shovel into the trash can. That's what this store looks like. Rich, am I exaggerating?
No, it's not. And Vince, this is one of the reasons why math is so important that we talked about today, everything from Baltimore to articles coming out that knowing math is racist, basically. If people knew math and they learned this stuff in school, we wouldn't even be having this conversation because we have exported inflation to low-cost producing countries, okay? So the CEOs have taken their businesses and their employees to low-cost producing countries, and what do? We import deflation, so quality of the products go down while the profits for the very few at the very top go up. And we got to remember, interest rates are a function of growth, economic growth, wages, and inflation. I've talked about that many times. If you look at the charts from 1981 to today, interest rates are going down because of growth, economic growth, wages, and inflation. Okay, they're all descending or have left the country in the context of inflation. Now we have stagflation on certain things like certain types of food, water, healthcare, college, insurance, taxes, lumber, rent in certain areas. But for the most part, we're in the deflationary spiral, stagflationary consequences for the middle class or bottom 93%. So if people knew what's been done with growth, wages, inflation, aka interest rates, people can see that this has been a phenomenon for years and is only going to continue to get worse, which means opportunity for the bottom 93% is going to descend along with savings rates and basically every measurement of quality of life that made America great. So that's why math is so important, folks, because if you read these articles and you look at the charts, and I'm talking economics 101 here. I don't delve into it with, economics 405 or anything like that, because you've got to remember, half of what you read out there is a psyop. People trying to sell you products, services, make you think a certain way or invest a certain way. That's how they do it, distract, dumb down, and divide the American people. That's how the aristocracy-serf relationship maintains the status quo, the incognito caste system that we have in America. That's part of the globalist playbook, okay? We got to forget about this left-right paradigm, okay? When Trump said he wants to give America back to the people, the globalists put it in overdrive, and they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that this doesn't happen. And this is why we got to read, research, and share information and be as self-sufficient as possible. I don't drill for my own oil. I don't refine my own gasoline. There's certain things that we just don't do these days, okay? But there's a lot of things we can do. And, think about frugality. Household, corporations, big government, no one's living below their means. And when this thing breaks, it's going to get ugly. And that's why we need this protege relationship.
Actually, there are a couple of people who live below their means, and I'd say, many of them are instructors at USA Prepares. I know you live below your means, and I do too. Mm-hmm. I mean, heck, I drive, my daily driver is a 1996 Mercedes that I paid $3,000 for. I mean, could I have spent $4,000? Yeah, I probably could have done that. $5,000? Yeah, I think I could have done that. $10,000? Yeah, I think so. But would I do that? No. Why would I? My son and I were helping someone move yesterday. And we were in the truck, and he's kind of making fun of my truck because, what color is it? Well, it's white and rust color. And it's starting to be more of the rust color. And so around the wheel wells, it's really, it's like it's a two-tone, rust around the wheel wells.
That's a good one.
And rust on the rocker panels, on both of them. As a matter of fact, pretty soon there won't be any rocker panels. Seriously. So let me just tell you about Sears. When we come back, you talked about the top guys. Let me tell you how much this guy makes as chief executive officer at Sears Holding. Okay, the guy who is presiding over the destruction of the corporation known as Sears Holding. Let me tell you how much he makes. You won't believe it. Talking about Sears, an institution in the United States and actually outside the United States as well, that's crumbling right in front of our eyes. They used to have a sign just above the entrances to all the Sears stores: satisfaction guaranteed or your money back. So if you went in and bought something at Sears, you felt, well, it's okay. It's okay because if this thing falls apart, breaks, quits, it's guaranteed. I can get my money back. So there was this assurance that we had as customers, and that's one of the reasons why we went to Sears. So I bought a timing light. It's used to set the ignition timing on a vehicle that had an adjustable distributor before the computer-controlled distributors. And so I bought it, and it was their very best one. I used it one time, put it back in its plastic package, put it in the box, put it in the toolbox, and went to use it just over a year later, and it didn't work. So I made sure it wasn't me, and I had failed. Brought it back to Sears, and they said it's out of warranty. I said, well, I only used it once. They said, yeah, but it's, and I had my receipt. They said, well, it's out of warranty. It's just, like a month out of warranty. And I said, but I only used it once. And look at it. It's not a scratch, fingerprint. It's like brand new. And they said, well, it's out of warranty. And finally they said, this young punk thug salesperson there said, we'll give you 10% off the next one. So why would I buy another one? Why would I do that? And so finally I talked to the manager. The manager, I had him come over, and he explained to me that Sears, I explained I was a Sears employee and how I was trained. And this isn't the same place anymore. And he said, you're right. We don't work for the customers anymore. We work for the shareholders. We work for the shareholders. Well, Sears lost their way. Now I'm going to prove to you that they work for the shareholders. This is on the internet right now. I typed in on a search engine, salary of Sears CEO. Here's the result. As Chief Executive Officer at Sears Holding Corp., Edward S. Lampert made $3,481,637 in total compensation. Of this total, $1 was received as salary, $0 received as a bonus, 0 was received in stock options, but $3,481,636 was awarded as stock. And $0 came from other types of compensation. This guy works for stock. He's not interested in good, better, best. He's not interested in satisfaction guaranteed or your money back. He's not interested in customers. He's interested in stock price. So whatever he has to do, including manipulation of numbers, obfuscation, confusion, anything that he can do to drive that stock price up is in his benefit. Happy, smiling customers with washing machines and dryers and paintbrushes and hammers and the other things that Sears used to sell, doesn't really help him in his stock price. That is what destroyed Sears. Compensating the CEO in stock is what I believe destroyed Sears. And who's responsible? The board of directors. And I'm angry about Sears. I'm angry about our educational system. Why am I angry about Sears? Because it's an institution. It was the best one single place to go to buy something in the 1970s. If you wanted radial tires, that was the place to go. If you wanted a $19.95 muffler installed, that was the place to go. I even bought a furnace from Sears. My water softener came from Sears. We used to buy appliances at Sears. They had them in the back room. Now you buy an appliance, they go, okay, Tuesday. We can deliver that on Tuesday. Maybe next Tuesday if we're lucky, but probably the Tuesday after. Why? Because we don't have any. We'll have to get it at a warehouse and then have our guy bring it to you. Rich Scheben, am I making this up?
No, Vince, but one thing I need to interject, 83% of the stocks were owned by 1% of the stockholders. It's the aristocracy versus the serfs, people. And this is one of the reasons why there's a credit collapse, because the decreased need for credit means decreased interest rates. Everything is descending as far as opportunity and prosperity for the American people. And I'll end it on that note. Thanks, Vince.
Rich Scheben, thank you so much for being with us every Monday. Rich Scheben.